Madam Center. Ma'am. आगे जाने सिखाड़े.
So this is live in New Delhi, where the Finance Minister has shown the Union Budget 2023-2024. She's going to the President's office and then she will present the budget in Parliament. It's a crucial day for India, like I mentioned in our introduction. This is the 2023-2024 budget which will be presented in Parliament later today by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. She's now headed to the President's office and then she will head to Parliament, where the budget reading will begin at 11 a.m. IST, that is Indian Standard Time. Once again, Finance Minister or Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has left the Treasury building, headed to the President's office, and then she will later head to Parliament to present the 2023-2024 Union Budget. And like I say, the world's eyes are on India's budget against a darkening global economic backdrop. The IMF, ahead of the budget announcement, called India a bright spot, even as it projected a slowdown next year. And taking cues from that statement, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said this budget will be a bright spot for the shaky global economy. He also sounded confident that India will live up to global expectations after Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the economic survey in Parliament on Tuesday. Once again, broadly, the expectations are for India's budget to focus on managing its finances in a tough year for the global economy, with the threat of a recession in Western nations rising. Experts say India will need to focus on attracting foreign investors by balancing government spending to support growth rather than populist measures ahead of the 2024 elections. And this budget is being presented ahead of the 2024 elections, which is also a crucial year for India and the Narendra Modi government.
मोदी सरकार जब से बनी है और समाज के सभी तबकों का ध्यान रख करके बजट लाती है, और निश्चित तौर से भी कुछ घंटे बाकी हैं, आप देखेंगे कि समाज के सभी वर्गों का उम्मीदों वाला बजट है।
Foreign investors want the country to prioritize economic stability and present a clear path to lower deficits. The government will also need to work on reforms to create enough jobs for over 500 million youth joining the workforce every year. Experts are saying India needs to allocate money to improve job opportunities for the rural and the urban population. And for India to gain investor confidence, the budget needs to focus on supporting a slowing economy. And that's why we are asking, will this budget be people-driven? India's economic survey projects GDP growth to ease to a 3-year low of 6.1% to 6.8% in the next fiscal year, starting in April. What you're seeing on your screen is just a few moments ago when India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman left the Treasury. She is heading to the President's office and then she will present the budget in Parliament. And this is called the 2023-2024 Union Budget. Now, the report prepared by Chief Economic Advisor says its baseline scenario was for 6.5 growth in 2023-2024, down from the expected 7% rate this year. That slowdown is expected to be largely driven by waning foreign demand for Indian exports, a weaker rupee, and elevated inflation from the Russia-Ukraine war, which shows no signs of abating. In addition, domestic demand is projected to remain strong, widening the trade gap, which is forecast to remain high. That makes the government's job even more difficult, as a widening deficit weighs heavily on public finances. Still, despite the expected slowdown, India is projected to be one of the fastest growing major economies, driven by robust consumption back at home. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, India's economy has recovered. However, the Russia-Ukraine war has sparked inflationary pressures globally and forced major central banks, including that of India, to hike interest rates. Now, according to advisors, for India, on balance, a modest slowdown in global growth will be beneficial, as it would help bring down commodity prices and ease inflation concerns. Dr. Kartikeya Singh is a senior associate and an expert in U.S.-India policy studies. Doctor is joining us live from Washington. Dr. Kartikeya, welcome to WION on this big day for India.
Thank you for having me.
You are an expert for global energy policies. India is gearing for energy transition and climate action. For many, they are curious. How green will the 2023-2024 union budget be? Your predictions?
Well, predictions just before the announcement are rather tricky to make, but I suppose I'll be one of the last few experts that has this ability before we dive into the analysis of what's actually in it. And I was listening to the intro that you just played prior to my coming on, and it's important to note that a people-centric budget for India is one that protects the Indian citizen from the various shocks that we are facing right now, including one of a changing climate and one where global energy prices have certainly gone for a toss due to the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So what I would advocate as a sort of top-line message, and what would really be, I think, a plausible next step to harness the investments that the government has already made, is to find a way to get Indian citizens to benefit from the electrification of the households and the Indian economy. The Indian government managed to do what India has been talking about since independence, which is managed to extend its electricity infrastructure down to every single household several years ago. And this was no easy feat. The next natural stage in getting this infrastructure out is to get ways to stimulate demand for electricity consumption of these households. Now, you spoke about the pressures that the Indian budget will face, specifically with regards to import costs of fuels, fossil fuels in particular, oil and gas, things that India does not have in large quantity, but has to rely on international markets to gain access. So finding ways to electrify things that Indian consumers currently rely on with oil and gas is the next natural step to making sure that the Indian citizens and households are protected from the oil and gas shocks that might be, that we are witnessing and that we will continue to witness. And this would be in line with the Indian government's decarbonization plans and help meet its 2030 decarbonization targets. So what I'm specifically hoping that this budget includes is large-scale incentives for electrification of things like mobility. And one thing to note is that in the last year, there was a 160% increase in subsidies for electric mobility. And I hope to see more flowing into electric mobility, so consumers are not faced with the burden of petrol and diesel hikes, and state budgets and central budgets are not constantly grappling with the kinds of subsidies and cutbacks that they need to navigate, as it's politically quite sensitive. The other area is cooking, which is, India has been successful in getting cooking gas to every home, but the next natural step is really to electrify cooking. And therein leveraging the fact that every household has access to electricity now. And that would ease those particular burdens, the cooking and mobility. And I would say that this could be translated to various other sectors in the economy as well. So I would say that electrification is a key pillar that I hope gets significant attention in creating what I hope will be seen henceforth as creating climate change aligned budgets, because every year with a changing climate, we will need to protect citizens from the shocks of a changing climate, to be more resilient, and also resilient to the energy shocks that come from dependencies on fossil fuels that we need to be cutting down on.
Doctor, let me come in here and we'll talk about the technicalities of climate change and the low carbon energy sources in a moment. But I want us to go back to the past 1 year. Do you think last year's budget addressed some of these issues? And do you think the focus now should be lifted in this year's 2023-2024 budget? And I'm talking about green energy. And that's why I asked, is this budget considered green?
Yeah, and I think that what we have seen is a steadily an uptick in the greenness of India's budgets. One thing to note is that India has one of the largest fiscal transfers from the central to the state governments that is pegged on the amount of forest cover that Indian states have. And there was a recommendation to increase the amount that Indian states get from the center for enhancing their forest cover. I would say that these kinds of measures have been on the right track. And I think some of them are starting to be seen as having an impact in stimulating the renewable energy and the electric vehicle market in India. India is one of the largest markets for electric mobility for 2- and 3-wheelers in particular. And I think that what we need to do is just ratchet up these investments, because it's completely in line with trying to make sure that Indian citizens are protected from the shocks of global volatile energy markets that are really pegged to fossil fuels, because the input costs of importing something to burn it are different from the import costs of sun and air. What we do need to figure out, of course, is energy storage. And that is a space that I am hoping that there'll be considerable new allocations and enhanced incentives to stimulate that India can really get around the issue of energy storage to really achieve its true energy independence through clean energy.
Dr. Kartikeya, finally, and I want us to make it very simple, because every budget year in every country, there's some technicalities that are involved. And you mentioned low carbon energy sources, which are vital weapons in the world's fight against rising temperatures. Wind, hydro, solar, and other emerging technologies all have a part to play in realizing the crossover from fossil fuels and carbon-based energy sources. Is South Asia on the right track to achieve this?
South Asia is in a very precarious place, navigating the worst impacts of a changing climate. And herein, I think investments to adapt to a changing climate are critical. We've seen what's happened in neighboring Pakistan, with a third of the country being underwater due to floods on the Indus River. There's a very key partner to the east that India surrounds on 3 sides, where large impacts of high floodwaters could have spillover effects in terms of migration that need to be kept in mind. But I do think that India has demonstrated, India in particular, and also the other neighboring countries have done various different things to make sure that they're courting clean energy industries. I think India has been more successful at this and needs to maintain the momentum. Again, looking forward, I would want to see an increased focus and enhanced allocations for things like pumped storage hydro, offshore wind, and energy storage technologies, things that will really help India achieve true clean energy independence and sufficiency, and be able to provide those kinds of opportunities to its neighboring countries as well. And all of this is people-centric, because these are the industries where the jobs will also be and need to continue to be a focus of every budget moving forward.
Dr. Kartikeya Singh, a senior associate and an expert in U.S.-India policy studies, thank you for your insights on WION today.
Thanks so much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.